I'm Cory Tomas, writer of the play Lockdown. This episode of Ear Hustle contains language that may not be appropriate for all listeners. Discretion is advised.
I'm just wandering around.
Hi. We want to talk about the presidential election, and we heard that you run an election in here.
What?
Is that not true?
What? What are you talking about? I should mess with her like this.
Oh, sit down.
Tell us your name, how long you've been incarcerated, and who you're voting for.
My name is Juan Haynes, and I'm editor-in-chief of Solitary Watch.
Erlon, we have known Juan forever.
Yes, we have. He's a longtime journalism guy who was like part of the furniture down at the media lab.
Exactly. And we should say that for a long time, he worked at the San Quentin News. Which is in the media lab.
Yes.
So we saw him every time.
Every day.
We went to work, and he loves to chat.
Oh, no, he'll definitely chop up a conversation quick. Mm-hmm.
And he was someone we really wanted to talk to for this episode about politics in prison.
Oh, yeah, because, Juan, what would you call him? Political junkie.
A political junkie.
He's definitely a political junkie.
I've been incarcerated 28 years, and I'm 67 years old. I've voted in or had an opinion about who should be commander-in-chief every election in my life. But this might be the first time that I actually won't vote as a protest.
Well, yeah, but what do you mean vote? Because you can't vote in prison. So what do you mean vote?
What I mean by vote is we hold mock elections since 2008 at San Quentin State Prison. I was kind of like on the staff of the very first one. That was the Obama election. And then after that, I kind of picked up the mantle and handled every presidential election while I was on staff at San Quentin News. One of my biggest advocacy concerns in the United States is the right to vote. To me, it's huge. When I talk to people during every election, when they vote, many tell me that they've never voted in their lives, and the fact that they participate in a mock election makes them feel like they're a part of something.
This mock election that Juan does is going to take place in mid-October.
And it's really cool. They distribute a ballot to every single cell in San Quentin. Every person inside the prison gets the opportunity to vote. It's real official. I mean, do you remember getting the ballot?
I do not remember. I probably wasn't paying attention.
It's like how you get junk mail outside your front door and how you don't look at everything.
Truth be told, up until 2020, that was my first time ever voting. So I hadn't voted no other time in my life, so I probably wasn't paying attention to a mock election.
Like a lot of other people.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I work so hard to make sure these mock elections occur is because I want people who are incarcerated, who feel thrown away, feel like they're a part of something really important. Democracy needs everyone, and that's what I truly believe.
So to go back to you saying that you might not vote because of these two candidates, do you think that is part of you're very passionate about people voting?
Yes.
So are you also passionate about people saying, I'm not going to vote? Because
Yes.
Okay. So that's part of your passion,
Right.
The freedom to say, no, I'm not going to vote.
I don't want to leave anyone out.
I am still trying to get my mind around this notion that someone can be really passionate about politics and voting and yet decide they're not going to vote.
Right.
But the spirit of what he's saying, that democracy needs everyone, that's something I can get behind.
Right. And even though people in prison in California can't vote, they do have opinions. So let's hear what they have to say.
Let's do it. I'm Nigel Poor.
I'm Erlon Woods, and this is Ear Hustle from PRX's Radiotopia. So Juan is going to get the results from his mock election by the end of October or mid-October, somewhere up in there. But we couldn't wait that long.
So we came up with a plan to do our own poll.
Not to steal their thunder.
Exactly.
But
it may.
So being that we've never done a poll before, we needed to get some game on this, some advice. And we set up a phone call with our inside managing producer, Tony Tafoya, and this guy.
My name is Lakshya. I'm at the elections agency Split Ticket. We write about and model elections.
Split Ticket analyzes polls on national elections.
So Tomorrow we'll be on the yard and we're going to have a bunch of postcards set up and some pens and a box, and people can write down who they would want to vote for. I was wondering about general guidance of how to make that as easy as possible, but at the same time as statistically correct. Yeah.
Okay. What I would say is to start with, I think survey design is the most important thing. People just need to be sure that their vote's confidential, can't be traced back to them or anything.
Mm-hmm.
The next part that they need to make sure of is that, like, the question itself is worded like it would be on the California ballot. Take an example of a California ballot, just copy that wording and present the choices: Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance.
Okay, so we looked at the California ballot, and I hadn't realized it, but RFK is still on there.
Even though he dropped out.
Yes. And of course, the Green Party's on there as well. So we put those candidates on our ballot too.
And we made sure to keep it anonymous. We didn't collect any names or watch people as they filled out their ballots.
Lakshya said if we really wanted to do it right, we needed to ask people for some basic demographic information, like race, age, things like that.
Let's say San Quentin is 20% black.
Okay.
And your survey has only 5% black respondents. Well, black voters are, like, overwhelmingly Democrat.
Okay.
And what's going to happen is if your survey underrepresents black voters, it's also going to undercount the Democrats. And you can think of something very similar for age, right? Like, young people probably more likely to support Harris. So that's why you want to collect data on age and race.
Is there a specific magic number we're looking for out of the population of 3,400?
If you guys can get 200, 250, 300, anything in that range, that would be fantastic. More the better.
Okay, cool.
So we printed out 300 ballots, and a few days later, we went out to the yard because there was one of those events inside San Quentin. So the yard was packed, and we handed out ballots.
And while we were doing that, we figured we might as well just ask people, if you could vote, who would you vote for?
Donald Trump.
Why Donald Trump?
Because I'm a Republican. I've been a Republican since before I came to prison, and I was a Republican now. And I believe in what the Republicans stand for.
Trump.
Tell us why.
Oh, because he's honest. He says what he has in mind.
I would vote for Kamala Harris. She is fresh blood, and she is definitely not Trump.
I would definitely vote for Donald Trump. I think he made the economy great when he was the president, and I think he'll do it again.
Kamala for sure. Donald Trump's a madman. He might be the one to blow up the whole planet if given the chance.
We definitely voted for Sister Kamala. Trump equals trauma.
But Kamala rhymes with trauma.
I mean, it may rhyme with trauma, but, you know, she's less drama. Fuck.
Creo que Trump es muy racista.
Donald Trump is a little bit racist towards the Latinos, and we know that we're in prison, but at the same time we deserve a second chance. Donald Trump don't think that people can change. The people deserve a second chance.
If you could vote, who would you vote for and why?
Is RFK still in the runnings?
I would not vote for either one. Really, all they talk about is the middle class, middle class, middle class, middle class. Where's anything about the lower class people?
Right now, neither. Trump is just, I like his policies. But the person, to me, he's too racist. And to me, Kamala is too far out there. She's too far left, in my opinion. If you put a gun to my head, I'd probably have to be shot.
Well, if you're putting a gun to my head, I would have to go with Kamala.
Donald Trump, I guess everybody can say that he's a true American because, you know, he's a convicted felon. Then he made love with a porn star. And he got shot. What more American is that?
Man, Trump is literally a rapper in their eyes. He done got shot. He's dating porn stars.
So that was giving him an edge, right?
Yeah, you know, he got a lot of street cred in the prison system.
So after that, we took those same questions to CCWF,
which is Central California Women's Facility.
Thank you. And we wanted to see what the people there would have to say.
If you could vote for president, who would you vote for? You got
Trump.
You would? Okay, why? What about Trump appeals to you?
I just like him. They say he's racist or whatever the case may be. I just feel like he's fair.
Kamala or Trump?
Kamala all day long. We're in opposition together.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say Trump. We need to improve our economy.
And Trump will do that?
I'm hoping. You know, I can't get any worse than it is now.
I don't like Trump. So almost anybody that goes against him is going to be better.
And I think for me, it's her biggest platform is women's reproductive rights. And that's something that has affected my family. So anybody who's willing to change that has my vote.
I think that's a question that we don't want to answer in here.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Because I don't like Donald Trump because he's very racist. And what he does to the Mexican people, I don't agree. I was in Texas when that happened. He separated the babies from the mothers and fathers and put them all in cages like they were animals. It's ridiculous. It's not fair.
I don't know about Kamala Harris either because, she denied a lot of my appeals.
So there's a track record there.
But if I had to pick and choose, I would go with her so she could be the first woman as president.
I might have to go with Trump, but I'm not really for sure. Like, it's both pros and cons.
It's literally pros and cons.
Yes, because, Trump, he did a lot in office while he was in office. He did.
It's not about money, for real. If it don't have nothing to do with money, he don't care.
His business strategies help our different communities, especially the incarcerated community.
I don't know if this is what she's alluding to, but you got to remember that Trump was in office when everyone in prison got those stimulus checks. It was like, ching, ching. I mean, everybody had money on their books and they was selling out the canteen.
I totally forgot about that.
So Trump got a lot of fans in prison.
Yeah.
He's a felon now. Can I run for president?
If you could vote in this election, who would you vote for?
Kamala all the way.
Okay, why?
I want to see a woman sit on the throne and be a commander-in-chief before I die.
At this particular point, I hate to even say it, but the man with the toupee.
Is that a toupee?
That's a toupee in my head. It's a piece, huh? Yeah. It's a piece.
Back at San Quentin, the inside team was midway through the poll and took a break to start tallying.
Yeah, they wanted to see how it was going and whether they were going to hit 200, which probably doesn't sound like a huge number. Honestly, it doesn't sound like a big number to me.
Right.
But it turns out it's hard to get that many folks in there to do pretty much anything. And like our pollster said, 200 would be fantastic.
It's not any easier on the outside, right? Mm-hmm. People are busy. They got their minds on other shit.
It's a little before 1. It's 12:50 by the clock in the studio. How do you think we're doing in terms of gathering ballots?
I actually think we're doing pretty well.
What percentage of the total of 300 do you think we have done?
Oh, half.
So I think we have to get back out there, right?
Yeah, let's go back out.
All right, drum roll. Did we make the count to have a statistically accurate sample?
And when we got to the end of the day and gathered all those ballots and counted them up, who won the poll?
You think we about to get that away this early in the episode? Come on.
No way.
Who does that?
James Daly, I go by Jimmy.
How would you describe yourself?
Introverted.
Really? That facial hair is not the facial hair of an introverted person. He's got a mustache, a bushy mustache, and then extended handlebar. When I look at it, I think of Deadwood. It's very like cowboy.
This is like a Fu Manchu.
Yeah, but well forested. There's a lot there. That is a real statement. So to set up this next conversation, here's the idea I had. On the outside, it often feels like people are really divided. They're in their own kind of bubble, and they don't really hang out with people of different political beliefs. And the place where it does happen more is on the internet, where you're like this invisible person interacting with other people, and they can get pretty nasty and ugly.
The trolls.
Yes, exactly.
But, in prison, since you have no internet, it's all kind of face-to-face.
Exactly. And so we thought it'd be really interesting to bring 3 people into the studio who have different political ideas and see what happened.
Right. Their names are Oola, David, and that guy we were just hearing, Jimmy.
I spent 24 years in a solitary confinement. So I'd rather be the fly on the wall than the person behind this microphone.
Oh, interesting. 24 years?
Yeah.
How long have you been out?
2017.
Oh, that's still relatively new.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
My name is Damon Lewis, or Oola. To describe me, a people person.
And what about your facial hair?
This is almost like my political statement. So whenever I'm freed, I plan on cutting my beard.
So you're going to see how long it grows while you're inside?
Yes.
How long have you been incarcerated?
22 years.
And how long have you been growing that?
This statement has only been going right now for about 3.5 years.
It's pretty long. So he has like 6 inches of a braid in his beard? Okay. All right, very different.
I'm David Ditto. By profession, I'm a biomedical researcher, but now I've been incarcerated almost as long as I was in that career. So I've been down 13 years on a 25 to life sentence.
Okay.
Currently, I'm associate editor of the San Quentin newspaper. I'm here trying to make myself a better person and go back to society a better person.
And what about your facial hair?
I was told I have a great face for radio, so it didn't matter if I shaved or not, but I just happened to be clean shaven.
Okay, so you heard what their facial hair looks like. Now I want to kind of give you a little bit more of a description.
Okay.
And from that, you are going to tell me who you think they're going to vote for.
Okay.
So Oola is like a black guy with a long braided goatee.
I know Oola. That's my boy.
Okay. Jimmy is like tatted out. And let's just say if they were, how can I say this? If Hollywood were casting someone to play like a white prison gang dude, he'd be first in line.
Okay.
And as you know, David Ditto is this very clean-cut white guy.
I know David Ditto, yeah.
Okay, so who's voting for who?
I'm gonna start with David Ditto. David Ditto seems like he would probably be voting for RFK or somebody, like an independent.
Alternative.
Yeah, an alternative. The tattooed guy probably Trumper. And Oola is definitely Kamala.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that hippie beard.
No, yeah, it's my boy.
Well, we're going to find out after the break.
So right out of the gate, Oola let us know what team he was rolling with.
A lot of people wonder, like, well, who would you vote for if you could vote, and why? And so when I said, like, okay, well, I support Trump, the first thing is like everybody's like, oh, whoa, no, how could you? And it's like, well, no, I'm not in love with the person, but some of the views and the policy is what attract me.
So while I was sitting there, of course, my eyes were darting around the room. And while Oola was talking, Jimmy was just like barely able to keep himself in his seat. Like he was ready to jump in. Okay, sorry. I'm going to have to go to Jimmy because I can see he can barely contain himself. Go.
Trump is me in the height of my criminality. He is me in 1990. That's when I fell on this case. The worst person I ever could be. I spent my life around apex predators. We did what we wanted in prison. And we hurt a lot of people. I also knew that, yeah, I'm sitting at the table, but I could be the next meal. And we killed more of our own than our enemies. Donald Trump is an apex predator. That is Trump. The only difference is Trump has a huge following. I've been incarcerated for 33 years on this case, and rightfully so. So that's why it bothers me. All my bad characteristics brought me to prison. Somehow he's convinced the public to embrace them as virtues.
Well, for me, and I'm speaking from a black perspective now, I can't remember a time, no matter whether I was in trouble or not, that there was somebody trying to dig something or find something out about me or, who is he or he's doing something. You relate to a person who's going through the same struggle as you, and you can clearly see that on every corner there's somebody trying to find something about him or somebody's like filing some kind of suit on him. Like I've been looked at that my whole life, even without committing a crime. So it's easy for me to side with him. Like, yeah, he's probably done stuff And like I said, I'm not in love with the person. I care about the views of the person that could bring the security of our country first, and then we start working it.
Oola, not a fan of Kamala Harris?
Mm-mm.
For the vice president who's running for the seat right now, Mike, this is the hometown girl from Oakland. I'm real close to Oakland right now, so I see people dying in real time. I see robbery in real time, murder in real time, drugs in real time. The business owners that you said you went to as a child, they are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't do right by them, what make you think you can do right by the country? I want somebody that's going to put country first, like not a political view first. And I think that Trump puts country first.
Trump does weaponize. He's brought us the art of personal destruction. Okay, if you oppose me, I'm going to tear you personally down. I'm not going to debate you on the issue. I'm going to destroy you, the person. Donald Trump is an apex predator. He is feeding on what he can gain from it. Okay, and like I said, there's no stopping him now. There's no guardrails. So you can believe in some of his policies. I like some of them. I don't like others. And you say you're not in love with the man, but the man is going to run the country. The man is somebody you can't get out because our glorious Supreme Court has said that he's above the law.
Okay, so we definitely heard from Oola and Jimmy, but you know David Ditto.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pretty quiet person.
Yeah, pretty laid back.
Yeah, and so I wanted to make sure to bring him out and have him be part of the conversation. Who do you support?
I support Kamala Harris and Tim Walz for president and vice president in 2024. Yeah. I see Kamala as a uniter, and I think that's one of the main differences that I see between Trump and Harris. Trump is dividing the country, and Kamala wants to unite it. I mean, her message to me is just, it's a promise of hope and bringing people together and inviting people from all sides of politics, the whole spectrum, to join together and to work towards a future.
Even though David supports Kamala Harris, as with a lot of people at San Quentin, it's complicated.
Kamala Harris, as Attorney General, she was actually in courtrooms with some of us while we were fighting our cases. And for the people, it's a phrase that she uses now. And when I hear that, I try to support it. But a part of me also cringes because I have a certain feeling of the way I was treated in the courtroom. And there's a lot of unfairness.
Sure, but that's the system. So she is following the law as it's written.
Right.
Okay,
she's part of the system, but that's why she's vulnerable. It's easy, I think, to attack her as part of that unfair system that's bureaucratic, and it's hard to overcome that personal dissatisfaction and, you know, a feeling that, you know, she's not for me, so how can she be for the people?
It is not unusual in prison to hear this complaint about Harris. Can you kind of explain it a bit more?
So in California, Kamala was actually the attorney general. So by being the attorney general, you're the top prosecutor in the state. What you say go in the whole state. And you're usually on everyone's habeas corpuses as the people. So it's going to be whatever your name is, Nigel Poor versus Kamala Harris.
Oh, so that like makes a very visual association with her.
She's the enemy. She's the op. That's in your mind.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is, it's not even her.
Right.
She's not the lawyer that's on the case. She's just the top dog.
Yeah.
So it's the other prosecutors that's really denying you. It's not her, technically.
But I get it. I mean, you see her name and it feels very personal.
Definitely.
One of the things I think about with conversations like this and why I sometimes find them really difficult is we're never going to change anyone's mind. I don't think. He's smiling with his opinion. I can tell he's not going to change. Jimmy, you're not. You're very clear on what you think. David is too. So what is the ultimate point of these conversations if we're never going to change people's minds or even completely listen with an open mind to what somebody's saying?
I think listening is the key. And if we don't listen now, maybe we can learn to listen. I have to listen to the reasons why and try to understand.
I think it's important for us to listen to each other's opinions. I agree with a lot of what Oola says. I believe we need strong borders. I believe we need a strong military. Look at China's coming up. But I also think that we need to have our friends back. You know, we can debate who is the better person to implement that because we agree on a lot of the policies. It's just, I have a very clear mind, his is a little warped. But other than that.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Who's going to win the election?
I'm hoping Camilla. I'm hoping.
Who's going to win?
I'm 100% sure that Trump is going to win.
David?
It's too close to call.
I don't think any of these guys are changing their mind, Nige.
No, hell no, they never change their minds. But you know, one of the things I really like about working in prison is that you can often find yourself in conversation with people who have very, very different, perspectives than you have.
Yeah, and this next conversation is a pretty good example of that.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Jason Jenkins.
And Jason, what are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking about Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
And what's the subtopic?
The subtopic is the election and her presidency.
And the
subtopic? Presidency and her being a woman.
Yeah, and what is it about her being a woman that sparked this conversation that you said?
So I made a statement, and I said that I would not vote for Kamala Harris because she is a woman.
So this is the first time that I know of that I've had a conversation with someone who will say that to my face, that you wouldn't vote for someone because they're a woman. And it really sparked my interest, and I wanted to know more.
Did you want to choke me out no more? Or just
no. I was really curious. Why? Where does that come from?
Yes.
No, I didn't want to choke. One, I didn't want to choke you because you're very friendly and you have a very open face, and so you seem like somebody I could have a reasonable conversation with about it. And I just want to know where that thinking comes from. So I was curious, not angry, but curious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the mentality come from is my spiritual faith, my spiritual belief. I am a Protestant Christian. And so in the body of Christ, when it comes to a man and a woman, there are certain responsibilities that a man is supposed to take on. And the leadership role of the family when it comes to teaching the word of God, teaching the family the word of God, those are male responsibilities.
Okay. What I was raised a Protestant too, and I never was told that.
I'm sorry.
So you feel sorry for me that I didn't hear that?
I'm sorry, you were deceived.
Okay. Yeah, that's not how I thought of it, but that's an interesting take on it.
I apologize.
So I'm a professor.
Yes, ma'am.
I come into prison. I started a podcast with a guy who was incarcerated. I'm an independent person. So if I had been taught as a young girl growing up that I shouldn't take on responsibility, where do you think I would be now?
Well, so it's not to say that males are smarter than women or superior in any type of way, right? When God formed Adam, right, he formed the male first, but the women came from the rib of the man. The man was formed first. And so that shows the leadership, the preeminence of the man versus the woman.
So there's other jobs where women are in charge. Like when I'm a professor, I'm in charge of all my students, male and female.
Yes, ma'am.
So why can't I be in charge there of people? Or I started a podcast and I'm the, in quotes, head of that program. So
Yes,
I come in
ma'am.
here and I'm in charge of men.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
is that also distasteful to you?
No, absolutely not. Because if you read like Proverbs 31, it talks about the virtuous woman, right? She was a business owner, right? And she fed the family and she had her own thing going on. And I'm not saying that women are just supposed to stay at home and cook and just be homemakers, right? There is a place for women to have like their own ministry and stuff like that. There have been times, even in the Bible, where God allowed women to take on certain leadership roles that belongs to men. That's only because there wasn't a male who was willing or capable to take on those responsibilities. And God has allowed that to happen. However, preaching and teaching and things of that nature are really male roles we have supposed to take on, but it's just like, unfortunately, it's not a lot of male role models out there that's willing to step up.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you a couple times. Don't be
It's all
insulted.
good.
So how do you feel when you see people, you may like them, but they're not following this path? How does that make you feel? And like inside, how does it make you feel?
So I have a lot of friends. I do have friends that are not Christians that have other belief systems, right? And so for me personally, it doesn't make me feel angry or upset or disappointed. I am saddened for them, for their eternal future, right?
Why? What's going to happen to us? Where are we going to go?
I am saddened because at the end of the day, like, whether people believe it or not, we're all going to have to stand before God. And we're going to have to answer for the way we lived our life, right?
So where will people like me go?
I don't know your belief system. Like,
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
not the same as yours. I mean, I have faith, but I have a
In
different
what,
kind of
though?
faith.
Like,
Well, I mean, I believe that there's a God and there's a plan. I would like to believe there's a plan, but I don't think that if there is, I have doubt. I'm not sure. This is what I would like to believe.
Yeah.
But I can't. I just find it hard to imagine that God would be that concerned if a male or a female is doing something.
well, so the thing is this, right? Like, it's not about what we do, right? It's about what we believe in.
Okay,
Like,
but
who
what
we
I
put
want
our
you to
faith
say, what is going to happen to people that don't believe what you say?
If people don't believe in Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
that Jesus Christ died for their sins, like, then there's a place called hell.
So that's where I'm going to go?
I mean, if you...
Would you pull me up if you saw me going down
I
there?
can't. There's nothing I
Really?
could do. The
Okay.
only thing I could do right now is ask you to accept Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior. And if you choose not to do that, then that is your own personal choice.
Okay, so it's
And
my freedom to
it's
choose.
God has given us free will. We are not robots that He controls, right?
Okay, all right. So I see where I'm going in your eyes, at least. Okay, so let's bring this to the election because this is what we wanted to talk about. So there's Donald Trump and there's Kamala Harris.
Yes,
They're
ma'am.
obviously the two. It's going to be one or the other.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're a religious man.
I'm a
spiritual man.
A spiritual being.
Okay.
Yes.
And how, from your spiritual side, how would you describe the kind of person Trump is?
Look, Trump is, he says he's a Christian, he says he's this and that, but his actions don't show. I believe Trump is a racist. I believe Trump is, like, he's not for people like me, which is a black man. I don't feel like, I believe that he's a narcissist, right? He's greedy, right? So I believe all these things that, every other person who looked at Trump, like, believes, right? I believe these things about Trump, right? However, we do agree on certain stances in regards to homosexuality, in regards to abortions, right? Like, I don't, believe in none of those things. I believe that, like, homosexuality is a choice. I don't believe people are born gay. I don't believe in abortions, right? And so, in my opinion, that's the only thing Trump has to stand on.
Okay.
Are those two issues.
But as a person, you find him you find him objectionable. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm not putting words in your mouth.
Absolutely.
Okay. How would you describe Harris as a person?
So, Kamala Harris, she's a politician. I don't look at her any different than I would Donald Trump. I don't believe that. Like, she was a former prosecutor who is people walking in this institution that she has prosecuted and that she has kept from receiving justice, even when she knew their innocence. There's all type of stories about her, having an affair with a married man. And so, like, I looked at her and Trump in the same way. Like, and so I don't think that the nation will be better off with her as a president.
So you think their personal foibles or their personal shortcomings are of equal?
I mean, all of us are. There's no one greater than anyone. Sin is sin. Like,
yeah, there's no degrees of sin.
There's no degrees of sin.
Really?
I can honestly tell you that God did. If I commit a murder and you tell a lie, God is not going to say, no, your sin is greater because you killed someone. No, God looks at sin all the same. There's no sin greater than the other. There is no big.
There's no
or little
degree
sin.
of bad?
There's no degree.
So if you're saying that all sins are the same, does that mean that all sinners go to hell?
No.
If they haven't asked for forgiveness?
If they haven't asked for forgiveness,
Okay.
right? If they haven't accepted the sacrifice that Jesus Christ provided for them, then yes, they are going to hell.
Where do you think Trump's going to go?
I don't know if he asked for forgiveness, right?
Okay. If I met you 20 years ago, where would you have been going?
So if you met me 20 years ago, I'd probably be dead. We wouldn't be having this meeting, and I would be going to hell.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, it was great talking to you. Thank you. I appreciate you doing it. It was fun, right? Was it fun? How do you feel inside?
I feel great. I feel like I was able to stand firm in what I believe in, and so with that, I'm always be proud.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You will shake a woman's hand, though.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just
Yes,
making
ma'am.
sure. Okay. We just have to get 30 seconds of silence.
Don, what are we doing today? I guess we're here to count these ballots to see if Trump won. Okay, all right, well.
A few days after the poll, our inside crew sat down to count the votes.
Before we go in, who do you think's going to win? I think Trump's going to win based off of the vote that we took.
I think Trump's going to win too.
I think Kamala's going to win.
Okay.
When I'm looking at it right now, it really looks like Kamala's winning. The last 5 or 6 I put in all Kamala. Oh no, here we go.
Yeah, hey, Uncle Trumpy right there.
Uncle Trumpy.
Who put Trumpy poo on there? Look, that Trump stack is starting to look a little bit more than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Shit, it's starting to get like, hey man, I'm looking at these stacks. They looking pretty close.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Wow.
We have 201 ballots.
Okay.
So a lot of my friends and family are very anxious to find out who won in here because they think it's a predictor of what's going to happen on the outside, and they're concerned about it. So now, I believe you guys have actually counted?
Yes.
Yes, we actually counted all the ballots.
Okay, and it looks like you have them right here. How many did you get?
So we have 201 ballots total.
Can I ask you who you would vote for?
Personally, I would vote for Kamala.
Okay.
Personally, I wouldn't even vote. I've never been into voting, and it sounds messed up because a lot of people probably think like me, but I wouldn't even vote. I've never been big on it, so I never really cared. It affects me, but it never really affected me to the point where I cared about voting.
Do you think there's more people out there that feel that way than we might imagine?
No, definitely it is. I think it's a big percentage of people that just don't want to vote and don't care about voting. And I think that's why the election sometimes looks like how it looks.
What about you, Tony, too?
So I almost don't want to say, but like I almost agree with Sadiq. Like I almost don't want to vote. And I wouldn't have until Kamala jumped in the race. Before that, I thought it was just like two geezers who really weren't worth a damn.
So who would you vote for?
Kamala. I would vote for Kamala. It's hard to vote for an ex-DA of my own city and an ex-attorney general of my own state who's prosecuted probably me at one point. But if I look at the alternative, I don't like having to pick the lesser of two evils, right? Or just I don't want to pick someone because I don't like the alternative. I want to pick my champion, and I'll be honest, he's not my champion.
But if you're picking the less of two evils and you don't vote, what happens when the evil one, the more evil, wins?
You have a bunch of people at the Capitol breaking windows.
So since you put it that way, I would want to vote for Kamala because I don't want to see 2016 again. I don't want to see the insurrection. I don't want to see none of that. So that's the reason why I don't want Trump to win, because I feel like he's going to breed this racism, this hate, and that's just going to just carry over.
So, oh God, can we hear the results? I'm scared. Okay. I wish I could hold someone's hand.
All right, before we get to this, we have 3 folders.
Okay.
We have our independent folder, which is this big one.
Right.
Kidding. We have our somewhat Trump folder and our Kamala folder.
Okay, so let me just say, one folder is razor thin, like there's almost nothing in it. One is, I'm going to say, half an inch thick, and one is like 2.5 inches thick. So it's a landslide.
It's a landslide.
Sadiq, my nails, I'm biting them. Oh my God.
So we had 131 people vote for Kamala Harris. Kamala won.
Oh, I'm trying to be neutral. Whoopee!
And then what was it? 60 something? No, the rest for Donald Trump. And then 10 for RFK, and 3 for Jill Stein.
Oh my God.
Hi.
Good morning.
Hey.
Hey, so I have some results for you.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay, so first off, who do you think San Quentin voted for overall for president?
Probably Kamala Harris, but not by much.
San Quentin voted for Kamala Harris, 132 people to 55 people for Trump.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any intel on the racial demographics of San Quentin?
Yes, I do. Okay, so I have 60 people who identified as Hispanic or Latinx, 72 black, 45 white, 5 Native American, and everyone else that's labeled other or Asian. There was 26 of them.
So that's interesting because this is basically exactly what you would expect if you ran a national poll with those demographics. You would get basically Harris leading by about 35-40, and that's like pretty much exactly in line with what you got. I mean, that is really cool. That's actually probably the most interesting part of this, that overall the incarcerated population doesn't vote that differently from the general populace as a whole. There's almost no research whatsoever on this.
Oh.
There's no one that studies this stuff. So this is really cool.
Do you remember Juan's mock election?
Mm-hmm.
So when is he going to get the results of that?
He said somewhere around mid-October.
Okay, so those results are definitely going to have to go in our newsletter, The Lowdown.
For sure, but you know what, though?
What?
Even though voting hasn't even started, Juan says he know what the outcome's going to be.
You know, every election, the Democratic Party wins, so I'm not going to...
Here.
Yeah, at San Quentin.
Okay.
At San Quentin, every year, even that Trump Clinton, it wasn't even close.
Will you let us know who wins the...
I'll give you a heads up, but I'm under contract.
Okay. Excellent politician here. I know you're busy. Thank you for stopping by and talking to us.
That was fun.
Yeah.
My name is Lakshya Jain, and I'm working on updating Split Ticket's presidential election model right now. Ear Hustle is produced by Nigel Poor, Earlonne Woods, Amy Standen, Bruce Wallace, Rasan New York Thomas, and Kat Schupknecht. Shubnam Sigmund is a managing producer. The producing team inside San Quentin includes Darrell Sadiq Davis, Tony de Trinidad, and Tom Wynn. The inside managing producer is Tony Tafoya. Thanks to acting warden Andes at San Quentin, Lieutenant Williams and Warden de la Cruz at the Central California Women's Facility, and Acting Warden Parker and Lieutenant Newborg at the California Institution for Women for their support of the show. Thanks also to this woman here.
I am Lieutenant Giamari Berry, the Public Information Officer at San Quentin Rehabilitation Center, and I approve this episode.
This episode was made possible by the Just Trust, building a smaller, more humane engine of justice and safety across the country.
Big thanks to Lakshya Jain for being our poll expert and for reading those credits. Good looking.
Earlonne Woods sound designs and engineers the show with help from Fernando Arruda, Harry Colhane, and Darrell Sadiq Davis.
Music for this episode comes from Antoine Williams, David Jossie, and Darrell Sadiq Davis.
For more information about this episode, check out the show notes on Ear Hustle's website, earhustlesq.com.
And if you want to learn more about this episode and all of our episodes, sign up for our monthly email newsletter, The Lowdown.
You can see photos, go behind the scenes to find out what the Ear Hustle team is up to, and more. Sign up at earhustlesq.com/newsletter.
You can find us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Ear Hustle SQ.
And if you're not already, follow and review Ear Hustle on any of your favorite podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the iHeartRadio app.
Ear Hustle is a proud member of Radiotopia from PRX, a network of independent, creator-owned, listener-supported podcasts.
Discover audio with vision at radiotopia.fm.
I'm Earlonne Woods.
I'm Nigel Poor.
Thanks for listening.
And for voting.
Hooey!
Radiotopia.